The voice of Husker Nation is on the air. This is Hail Varsity Radio. Insight, opinion, expertise, along with the biggest names talking Nebraska sports. Join in with the show at 402-489-1240 or 1-800-825-5865. Now, here are your hosts, Chris Schmidt and Elijah Herbel.
Welcome to it Mondays here. It's Hail Varsity Radio, powered by Cornhead Lager. Chris Schmidt, Elijah Herbel, and you. Thanks for checking us out. Hail Varsity YouTube channel, Hail Varsity Radio Twitter feed at HVarsity Radio. We've got a ton to get into with a couple of additions via the portal for Nebraska football. Maybe an addition to the coaching staff we'll tell you about, and two additions to the College Football Hall of Fame with Frank Solich and Danny Woodhead. That's incredible. Chris Schmidt, Elijah Herbel. Numbers to get in today at 489-1240, 800-825-5865. Can email the show, Chris at hailvarsity.com. Reaction over the weekend with Husker basketball. They try and get up off the mat as Mount Edie comes to PBA tomorrow night. NFL weekend to touch on. Playoffs are set. And, oh, yes, time to crown a national champion tonight with Michigan v. Washington, the old school Big Ten versus the new addition to the Big Ten. So a lot to dive into. On the program today, we'll check in with Michigan insider Greg Henson. Greg's been great and has his ear to the ground with Michigan football and maybe Jim Harbaugh's future, his thoughts on the matchup. In about 15 minutes, in hour two, Mr. Blackshirt, Charlie McBride. We'll get Uncle Charlie's take on Dana Holgorsen potentially. And, oh, yeah, the title game tonight. And then Jay Moore, Blackshirt Husker NFLer, part of the Blackshirt Hour. Jay Moore with us at 5:25. Time for roll call. If you're one of the first five in to the stream, we give you a shout-out. And our starting five, Anthony Sargent has checked in, and Anthony checked in way back at 3:15.
Wow.
Patrick got in there and says, look, I was first 8 hours ago. Tuck in at 3, Mike at 4, Big Al comes in at number 5. So there you have it. We'll read your comments and stream questions and thoughts all along the way. We love Anonymous checking in. Is Dana Holgorsen in talks to join Nebraska, or is he looking to manage a Cinnabon in Omaha? A little Gene / Better Call Saul / Slippin' Jimmy. And that's a great doppelganger take. Have you made it through the snow day okay?
Oh, fine, yeah.
Yeah? You didn't want to smack any roommates?
That comes with the territory.
Yeah?
That's expected. So my roommates, to lay it out, one's a plumber. One's a school teacher. So the school teacher had the day off. The plumber woke up this morning and was like, I got plenty of vacation days saved up. Snow, it's not worth it. He took the day off. And they have been playing Mortal Kombat at home for hours. Just those two. They're stepbrothers, which makes it even worse. So they've been playing Mortal Kombat.
Which one's Brennan? Which one's Dale? Was there karate in the garage?
No garage karate. I might come home to it. We'll see. I know there's a couple Modelo's in the garage. You never know what happens
Just
after
two?
a couple Modelo's.
there was a couple Modelo's in the garage.
No, but so like they like first met each other as stepbrothers in like middle school, and they really hit it off by playing Mortal Kombat, and that has just stayed true. So it's just been a day of them, Scorpion and Sub-Zero for the Mortal Kombat fans out there, just battling it head to head, screaming at each other. I had a meeting at 1 I'm trying to sit through, and I'm just hearing screams coming from upstairs. They're playing Mortal Kombat. It was a little bit hell.
Screams and swearing.
And to let you know, like I texted Schmidt before I came in, hey, I'm about to head that way, but I'm going to head out and shovel. I didn't need to go out and shovel. I wanted to get the hell out of that house while they were playing Mortal Kombat.
Choices, listen to them blast one another. Controllers and glass shattering.
Making your mama jokes. I'm like, you have the same mother, stepmother.
It's the same. It's the same response. Can't do it. There's a line in the snow we don't cross. Whether the line is yellow or not, that's to be determined. But I had to. Junior was home from school today, and he was. I'm going to go to the gym. Junior bought or talked to Mama into buying him creatine. I'm like, dude, are you playing anything? What are you getting on creatine for? Look, I just want to get bigger.
To look vascular.
I got to look muscular. It's like, dude, shower once in a while, and it may help with the ladies more so than getting all yoked.
Then a couple of veins in your arms.
No, anywho, he was home. Mama was home. I'm sure the gas bill is going to be $4 million because she turns the fireplace on and was watching something on Netflix.
So you and I may have been the only two people in this city that were more excited to go drive in the snow and bear the elements.
We got the hell here at like noon.
Yeah, we got here way earlier than we needed to be.
We got out. But let's dive into the Nebraska weekend, and let's just call it what it's been for Nebraska football. And Coach Rule, as he's in Nashville at the AFCA convention, was the keynote speaker. He spoke Sunday night, and he is somebody that other coaches in droves come to listen to, and he's somebody that also knows his offense needs to be better. He has recruited well with that room of wide receivers. He has young wide receivers that are talented. He's clearly recruited well, landing the number one quarterback in the country in Dylan Raiola. He's recruited well and getting Danny Kalin, and is uneven as the offensive performance was, the offense at least tried to adapt to Harburg's strengths, and he was able to reel off 5 wins for you as a backup who'd had really no practice time in Lincoln before this staff showed up. So all those things are laid out, and then we'll start with a couple of the players. In Isaiah Naor, the Wyoming/Texas wide receiver. Really good year for Craig Bull at Wyoming, a tough year at Texas with just a handful of grabs because of that knee injury in 2022. And then Dante Dowdell, him and Raiola hit it off immediately. Good story from Evan Bland on Dowdell and just kind of the impression Lincoln made on him. And, oh, yeah, the polar bear and wrestling and Husker fans, the fan base coming through again. That was cool for Nash this weekend. So you get a running back with a number of years to play that is that thumper, that has some speed, that is pretty elusive, can be a three-down back guy. Naor's at 6'4". The other shoe that could drop is Jamal Banks. Was looking at some of his numbers. Banks, Elijah, led the ACC in touchdown receptions with 9. He's put together a couple of really nice years. He's 6'4", 205. But his 63% of his catches were contested. And that means somebody's on your leg as a defensive back, and you're still able to make that grab. So if Nebraska can get Banks to pair with Naor with that young room, and you got a run game with Emmett there, presumably guys like Irvin and Ramir that can come back from injury, and you add a guy like Dowdell, you have a balanced offense with a guy that can pull the trigger at quarterback and an experienced offensive line. You put it all together with the defense returning, you can feel really good about Nebraska football. And
one of the things I want to say about the wide receivers, because some people might sit there and say, well, Nebraska got Naor, why would they still want Banks? I know Banks still wants to go visit Michigan. Despite these guys' measurables being pretty similar, they're different kinds of wide receivers. And the comparison I made last week, Naor strikes me more as a Quincy Enunwa type, whereas Banks strikes me more as a Maurice Purify type, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. Banks turns 50-50 balls into 75-25 balls,
sure,
which is kind of the hallmark I remember from Maurice Purify. He had those gigantic hands. He could go up in high point of football. He was able to make those contested catches pretty one-sided in terms of the offense, whereas Anuna was that guy that, with his frame, was a good downfield blocker, but had some wheels to be able to go beat the defense as well, could take the top off. And that's kind of the difference I see between those two, because if you look at just the pure measurables, height, weight, these two guys somewhat similar, but they play the game in a different way, and they'd fill different different roles. They'd fill two different roles within an offense. I think it'd be big to get both of those. We'll see if Banks still ends up checking out Michigan, whether or not Michigan's in the cards for him. As for Dowdell, I've been struggling to find the right comparison for him, as we kind of talked about last week. I think he is the guy that's going to step in and be the RB1 That might be an early forecast for me, but with Irvin and Johnson both coming back from injuries, Emmett Johnson's a little more slight. You're not sure how he's going to be able to handle a full Big Ten season. I think it makes sense to have to have a thunder and lightning of sorts. If we just set Irvin and Ramir Johnson aside, not knowing how they respond from injury, I think you have a lightning and thunder kind of guy with Emmett Johnson having a little more speed, a little more elusiveness. You have Dowdell being that little more of a thumper back, not saying he's not elusive, but more of a Big Ten traditional thumper back. I think it could be an interesting 1-2 combo in that backfield, but I've been struggling to find the right comparison for Dowdell. And then you add in the factor of, what does this offense even look like if Dana Holgorsen's brought on? Because we know he likes the air raid. He's a Mike Leach disciple. I believe he played quarterback for Mike Leach at Wesleyan.
He's a wide receiver. At Wesleyan. Yeah, and Dana grew up in the shadows of the Iowa Wesleyan football program that is no longer. Every time I talk with Coach Leach and I just bring up off air about West Virginia or Houston or Dana, and he just had this all Dana. I mean, he loved him some Dana. We'll get there in a minute. The more pertinent question from Brian: which stepbrother has a drum set?
Neither.
Thank God.
One has a guitar.
Okay.
He has not. No offense, Alex. He's not very good. He doesn't play it all that much. He tried to get into it for a little bit, learned his basic C, G, D chords, and kind of gave up.
If you're just joining to reset, Elijah has roommates. Two of those roommates are stepbrothers who were in their jammies playing Mortal Kombat
all day
at 8 a.m. this morning because of said snow day. Let's talk about Dana and Dana Holgorsen. Okay, again a Leach disciple, but that does not mean air raid specifically. And how would this work? Is it analyst role? Is it passing game coordinator and offensive coordinator? The cart is way before the horse because, well, Elijah, they're just friends. That's why Dana was in town to watch Nebraska wrestling for sure. And, you'd heard Dana's name. You've heard some other people's names as quarterback coach, and I'll get there in a minute, but
you got what I need.
Little Bismarcky.
But you say he's just a friend.
Because if Dana's just a friend, fine, pick his brain. If he's more than just a friend, get his ass in office and a whiteboard and bring him in. Bring him in. Okay, I'll say this. And Dana Holgorsen has just doing some research on him over the weekend. In Dana's time, he's worked for Leach, he's worked for Sumlin, he's run his own programs. And listen, did he want to win more games at West Virginia? Yes. Did he have a couple of 9-10 win seasons? Yeah. Did he maybe get run out of town a little too early at Houston? Probably. They were just transitioning to the Big 12. But I know this about Dana Holgorsen. In his last 9 seasons, he's ran about a half dozen different offenses, right? Will Greer's more of your backdrop guy, RPO option with a little bit of shake to him. There's been quarterbacks like Geno, where it was a short passing game that he adapted to. That's the thing to me that screams this would be big time for Nebraska, is because Holgorsen can throw it around. You're going to win football games being physical in the Big Ten with a run game. And in the 2015-26 season at West Virginia, well, it was more of a power read quarterback attack where West Virginia and a Mike Leach air raid disciple ran the football 60% of the time to a 10-2 season. So you look at what you got. Here's the groceries. Let's make a meal. And this triumvirate here, I think you get Dana Holgorsen as your quarterback's coach. I think you get Dana as your co-offensive coordinator. I think you move Sat to the tight end position that's vacant, possibly. And those two are co-coordinators together. Your run game coordinators, Donnie Raiola, and those three guys work together. Two things. When Dana's made a jump to a program as a coordinator, their offense is improved by nearly 13 to 16 points. The year he was at Oklahoma State, that was before their top 10 finish in 2011. In 2010, you know what kind of a pain in the A they were when Nebraska played down there with Blackman and their 87-year-old quarterback. Listen, they put up a ton of points. They went 11-2 that year. They jumped 16 points per game when he showed up. They had talent there, but he got production. He gets to West Virginia. They're up 13 points a contest. Year one at Houston, they're up 13 points a ball game. You look at what Nebraska's scoring output has been in year one. You add 13 to that at minimum based on track record. You're right at that 30-point number, which wins you a lot of Big Ten games.
Mm-hmm. The concern you have with Dana, I think if you don't know all that much about Dana, is he is an air raid disciple. He's a guy who likes to throw the football around. That seems to fly in the face of what Matt Rule and Marcus Satterfield have said they want around here. But when you dive a little further in, he has the hallmark of a good offensive coordinator, and that's that he tailors his offense to the pieces that he has. This is not Mark Whipple airing it out just to air it out. And
this is not empty on 3rd and inches.
No. Dana Holgorsen is the guy that can tailor his offense. Does he probably prefer to throw the football around? Yes, it's more fun. But he's the guy who understands, I believe, how to create an offense that fits the pieces that he has, which is, in my book, the hallmark of a good offensive coordinator. He's going to like throwing the football around. Guess what? You have Dylan Riley. He's going to like throwing the football around, too. It makes sense in that aspect. This is not a guy who's going to come in and throw it 90% of the football time, or 90% of the time in the Big Ten.
Hail Varsity continues. We'll talk some Michigan, Washington, more on Nebraska and what's looking ahead this offseason.
Hail Varsity Radio is live. Now, back to Schmitty.
Schmitty's a great guy, but he don't have a brain.
And Elijah.
You want me to speak? When I point at you, yeah.
On Hail Varsity Radio.
Thanks for hanging out on a Monday. It's Hail Varsity, powered by Cornhead Lager. Get the podcast, Spotify, iTunes, Google Play. You can rewind the show anytime you want there. The Hail Varsity Radio Twitter feed at HVarsity Radio. Give that a follow. Can watch us live, Hail Varsity YouTube channel. So we're efforting Greg Henson, Michigan Insider. Open phones for you right now at 489-1240. But thoughts on this Holgorsen news being that there's been discussions. How do you feel about that if you're a Nebraska football fan? And as nice as Dowdell and Nayor are, I love those pieces, those additions, those commitments from the portal. I think if you could add a guy like Dana Holgorsen to your staff, that's game-changing to pair with what you're expected to have back defensively with some of the pieces you have on offense. And don't jack around. Get somebody in here as your quarterback's coach. That was your plan from the get-go when you took the job. And you like Brian's comments here in the stream. Can also contribute via the stream or email, chris@hailvarsity.com. Brian says, give Rule credit. He's leaving no stone unturned. If Holgorsen comes aboard, the offense will look totally different in 2024. And what you want is options. You want to have a bread and butter, yes, but you need options. And Holgorsen's found different ways in Morgantown and in Houston. And he's had guys go to the next level as quarterbacks. So that's also appealing. We're talking as it's a done deal. I don't know that it is, but it's just encouraging that, listen, you went outside your comfort zone or from a familiarity standpoint defensively. Yeah, a number of the guys on your defensive staff, for sure you knew from Carolina. But your defensive coordinator and Tony White, big time. You nailed that hire. You kind of made do with what you had offensively last year. And then you factor in the injury bug. You can't be that inept offensively next year. There's no way you can live in that world again. And you can't get off on that foot with the talent you got coming in at quarterback.
And let's first off lay something out. If you read the tea leaves, I don't think Matt Rule's the kind of guy that would open himself up to bringing Holgorsen to a very public event such as Husker Wrestling and not have that be damn near a done deal. Like the fall, Husker fans are, I don't want to say expecting this to happen, but like you saw how Twitter blew up. people blew up over the picture of back of Dana Holgorson's head, being like, "Is that Dana
side
Holgorsen?"
shot from our dear friend Mitch Sherman's
It was like
Twitter?
half obstructed. You could just kind of see the hair and be like, "Looks like Dana Holgorson's hair." Let's first off lay it out. That was in fact Dana Holgorsen. Enough people that were at Husker Wrestling have told me yes, that was him. That I am confident saying yes, Dana Holgorsen was at Husker Wrestling, and I don't think Matt Rule would bring Dana Holgorsen to such a public event unless this was pretty close to the finish line, as like the wheels would have to fall off in the 23rd hour and 45 minutes for this to not happen, in my humble opinion. I think the question becomes, what is his role once he gets here? Is it as an analyst? I would be more likely to think it's as a co-offensive coordinator role with his acumen. Maybe he just wants a 1-year.
You don't go from head coach.
role.
You don't go from head coach and not sit out and collect the money for an analyst job.
I agree with that.
You just don't. You go, all right, you go from head coach to co-offensive coordinator, and you make some money and you show off what you can do with an offense in a quarterback room that was a tough deal last year.
And importantly, given Holgerson's history, you probably get to take a step back in recruiting. By all accounts, both at West Virginia and Houston, wasn't a huge fan of the recruiting grind that it took to be a head coach. And I think you could probably come here and, hey, just focus on the offense. Just be our X's and O's guy. Don't worry about the recruiting. We got coaches that can handle that. You don't have to be on the recruiting trail. We just want you to game plan for us every single week, work with Satterfield, and then I'd assume call the games on Saturdays as well, but do the play calling. I'd assume Holgorsen, with his experience there, would get the nod over Satterfield. I can't say that for certain. And maybe Holgorsen does come as an analyst, but I don't think it makes as much sense as him being a co-offensive coordinator that can really, really focus on game planning, X's and O's, play calling, step back from recruiting, get yourself a paycheck. And you know what? With a 5-star quarterback that you're working with, you'll likely get yourself another head coaching gig if that's what you want. If not, you get a nice cushy paycheck to send you off into retirement.
Well, and the other question too is, a lot of these contracts you offset. You're supposed to actively be seeking work at some point in time. That's one thing. Head coach money offsets head coach time to leave money. Coordinator money may be a loophole in the contract, so you can get paid at both spots.
But can I add, this is finally, should this hire go through, a hire that feels like the resume matches the job for Nebraska. Like the resume, what this guy has put together, his body of work, makes sense to be the guy that's leading a program with this stature of Nebraska. No, Nebraska's been down. We've talked about it plenty. But for what Nebraska is, the resources that Nebraska has, this is finally the coordinator hire, along with Tony White in the defense, who I think proved that he fit the bill last year, that the resume matches what the job description is going to be. Because you look back, did Lubick and his experience at Colorado State and then his experience at a credit union translate into being a high-level Division I coordinator at a place like Nebraska?
You just never know, because you were going through coordinators every year, every other year with Scott.
And then you look at that Whipple. Whipple was pretty much a retirement gig before he rode off into the sunset. It didn't sound like Narduzzi wanted him around at Pitt anymore. He had a good resume, but was he a fit for Nebraska? Not really. Was he acclaimed in his last couple stops? No, not really either. You look at Satterfield. Satterfield was bemoaned by South Carolina fans for his 2 years there before he comes to Nebraska. They weren't a huge fan of him. This is finally a hire that Nebraska is making that feels like, okay, yeah, Nebraska's a big dog, and Nebraska's going to act like a big dog, going and getting a coach with a resume like Dana Holgorsen. One of the best offenses in the country over the past 10 years has been what Dana Holgorsen's been putting together both at West Virginia and at Houston. It just finally feels like Nebraska is flexing its muscle in the way that it should by saying, you know what, we had offensive issues last year. We're going to get one of the best offensive masterminds in the sport. Give us Dana Holgorsen.
You have to upgrade on offense. Mm-hmm. You've done the job recruiting and acquiring personnel. You've done the job of getting some of the young talent you have at wide receivers feet wet, where they made some plays for you. You can't be jerking around on offense for another year. You can't put it on the defense. You can't not go pull the trigger on this if you can get it done because of feelings, right? And that's the narrative out there. The narrative is, well, you know, the loyalty and the connection. You're not dumping or getting rid of Sat, I don't believe. I don't believe that at all. You're not going to stand up at X number of press conferences and back your guy, which is what you're supposed to do. Meanwhile, you're not, and he's said it from day one, Rule, I'm not going to apologize about competition. you bring in high-level talent to enhance what you already got, and we know the offense needs to jump 2 or 3 notches to be not only complementary to what the defense has done, but look at what you're going against every week with 4 new teams coming in, one playing for the playoff title tonight in Washington. You've got to have as good or better guys in the headsets on your staff, and if you can get them because people want to work for you, good. You nailed it with Nebraska as a spot where you go get the best because you can.
Mm-hmm. And
you don't settle.
And you've gotten the best at quarterback. Now if this goes through again, we're talking as if it's going to happen. We can't say that with certainty, but it feels like
at least the wheels are in motion for it.
And it's bringing in a coordinator that will do your 5-star quarterback right, if you will, in that you have one of the best quarterbacks in the country. You don't want to hamstring him with coaches, with game plans. Bring in a guy that will do it right for that quarterback. And I think Dana Holgorsen is that guy. I mean, he's turned so many guys into super, super high-level quarterbacks from obscurity. What can you do with a top-level 5-star quarterback? We'll find out, but I wouldn't believe
Dana's never got to work with that.
No. I mean, and he's turned guys into NFL guys. Wasn't he the one
you had Brendan Whedon and Case Keenum or 2.
Yeah. Geno
and you
Smith,
had Cody Pickett and Geno Smith. So there's 4.
And then he also was the one who... Oh, no, Mordecai was SMU, excuse me. I was thinking Mordecai for a second, but Mordecai was not a Houston kid. He was an SMU kid. But still, you look at that pedigree. Give Dana Holgorsen the top throwing quarterback in the country. I know Lagway ended up being the number 1 quarterback. I don't believe that to be true. I think Raiola is still your top guy. You're giving him the number 1 quarterback in the country. Would be very, very curious to see what Dana Holgorsen can do with that, because I don't think you will screw that up. I don't think Dana Holgorsen would screw that up.
He'll look and assess, and what the thing that he does, all right, and this has been his history, again, looking at stuff over the weekend, the adaptability and how he's grown as a coach and as a play caller. It's not just 4 verts, right? That's a lot of fun, and you did it really well at Texas Tech. But you've adjusted as an offensive coordinator based on the experience you have at quarterback, and you don't have a college-level experienced quarterback that we think is going to win the job. You do in Harburg, but you have 7 games with him. You also look at what type of arm talent you're working with, and you have. We kind of detailed that a little bit ago last segment, and you've got pretty high-level arm talent coming in. So, no, if this can move forward for Nebraska football with Holgorsen, you find a spot, you make it happen, and then, man, you got to be pretty excited with where Nebraska's at potentially on offense, with the pieces they have, with the personnel, with the mind of a Holgorsen, paired with what's already on offense, and then you get the defense, and, hey, you need to be able to score points. You need to be able to stop folks, and as good as the defense was, imagine this defense playing with a lead, for the love of God, right? Not trying to score themselves to get a lead. And that the defense can take a breath and move forward as well. So,
I mean, did you think we talked about can Dylan Raiola get you 7 more points a game? Because 7 more points a game probably got you 4 more wins last year. Can Dana Holgorsen and Dylan Raiola get
along
you
with Dowdell and Nayor and this young group of receivers and Fedoni and this offensive line?
The running back room would still be a little bit of a question, but you feel decent about the wide receivers. Is the biggest hole in your offensive line, which made progress last year, was probably a middle-of-the-road Big Ten offensive line? I mean, the holes that we discussed this offense and all the issues seem to be getting resolved this offseason. Obviously, you have to put it on the field before you're willing to really put all your eggs into that basket of it's fixed. You have to see what Raiola can do as a true freshman, but you feel a hell of a lot better than you did 2.5 weeks ago.
Jeff tweets in, is our O-line good enough for these new skill guys to shine? O-lines tend to do better when defenses are nervous with added playmakers. Great pickup. That was a comment from Jeff Erickson on Dowdell. Well, we'll see what happens. Some thoughts on Nebraska basketball, NFL weekend, college football playoff ahead.
And now, back to Hail Varsity Radio.
Thanks for hanging out. Hail Varsity, powered by Cornhead Lager, Chris Schmidt, Elijah Herbel, and you more. Your comments in the stream on the way. Let's tell you to buckle up, especially with the winter weather. And use your seatbelt. It saves lives. It prevents injuries only if properly worn. Make it click. A message from the NDOT Highway Safety Office. Get to some emails, chris@halevarsity.com. More of your stream comments as Crew checks in. And he just took Nebraska plus 15,000 to win the Natty next year. I'm drinking the Kool-Aid GBR. Crew, I love it. Good for you, Crew. And if you hit that, remember the shout-outs is what I'll say.
Remember the guys you listen to every single day that convinced you that was the right play to make. Remember that.
So there's also some commentary in the stream. Mike checks in. Dana Holgorsen is Will Patton on Yellowstone. That's fair. I think Will Patton was one of the brothers, right? Season 2 or season 3. Didn't end well for Will Patton, but that's
spoilers. I haven't seen it yet.
Okay, well, how? It's on all the time. It's all right. You walk in with a belt buckle and some boots, brother. I know you started.
I don't think you'll ever see that.
No, you'll find the right pair of boots. I'm not cool enough to wear cowboy boots. So there we have it.
Sometimes I'll go to a country concert and I'll feel so out of place because I don't have country or cowboy boots, and then I'll throw a pair on at wherever I'm shopping at, and I go, no, that's just.
You just can't pull them off.
I look stupid. It's just not for me.
They're allegedly very, very comfortable. As a kid, I had cowboy boots. Junior's had cowboy boots when he was little.
Shout out my buddy Seth paid off some alligator skin boots that he ordered in from Australia. It was 5 different payments he had to make on these things.
Oh no! So he went layaway with them.
Yeah, and they're nice. They're bright red, beautiful looking cowboy boots. But I think in total he ended up spending hundreds of dollars on these things once he made the payments and installments. But they look great.
Yeah, we need to Google or find out the most expensive pair of cowboy boots. What's the average cost of your cowboy boots in the stream, or if you're listening on the show, 489-1240.
See, I do like a good cowboy hat. The problem being, if you wear a cowboy hat with anything other than boots, you look like a poser.
Yeah, you can't show up in a bro tank and a cowboy hat and a mustache, Elijah. Brennan checks in new boots, the genuine ostrich. 3 payments for Brennan.
Shout out Reno PD.
Yeah, when it comes there.
New boot goofing.
Yeah, no kidding.
That's one of the best clips ever.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. Nebraska basketball trying to get back at it. We'll go there for a moment before we wind down hour 1. Coach McBride with us in 20 minutes. We'll check in with Jay Moore, Blackshirt Husker NFLer, in hour 2. So Nebraska basketball pretty much just whooped up on by a team in Wisconsin that if you look at their resume, you look at their schedule, you look at their win total, and yeah, they're ranked. They're for real. Wisconsin did what they wanted to do to Nebraska this weekend. They were on fire from three-point land. They shot the ball excruciatingly well. They were great in the paint. Nebraska had turnovers, and those turnovers turned into points. Nebraska was rocked with points in the paint. You didn't have a great just defensive effort. They just looked out of it a little bit. Part of that was Wisconsin, but part of that was Nebraska. The defensive intensity went 180, it felt like, from Indiana. Now, the opponent's key, Nebraska on the road at Wisconsin, tough place to play, tough place to win. But you don't want to waste an offensive performance like that.
And the thing is,
Nebraska shot real well.
And I think it kind of goes hand in hand. Because if you'd have told me on Saturday morning, Nebraska's going to put up 72 points this afternoon, I would have said, wow, there's probably a pretty good chance they're going to win, or it's going to be close. I'll give credit where it's due to Wisconsin. I think Nebraska, they didn't have the defensive intensity they had at home against Indiana. I think that's understandable whenever you go on the road. Wisconsin's an environment where you're definitely not going to be able to feed off the crowd on the defensive end. Wisconsin, I think, took advantage of Nebraska's defensive game plan, which is to pack the paint a little bit. I think Nebraska said, if you want to beat us with the three-point shot, by all means, go ahead. And Wisconsin just went and did that, which is a little disheartening. And then once you find yourself down, it's a reality that you don't want it to be, but at times you say, you know what, do I give full effort defensively whenever we're down by 15, or to give full effort offensively? And I think you had a great offensive output from these guys, and I think in a game that you're on a bit of a short turnaround, you're on the road, you weren't locked in. That's going to happen in a long basketball season. You weren't locked in on the defensive end of the ball, or defensive side of the ball, I should say. Offensively, you played well. You had the energy there. Wisconsin just hit a lot of shots. They hit more threes in that game than they're probably going to hit in any other game this season. I think at times you just have to put your hands up, tip your cap to Wisconsin, and say, hey, credit to you guys for shooting the hell out of the ball from behind the three-point line. And that's exactly what they did, and I don't think Nebraska was ever going to beat Wisconsin if Wisconsin put up 88 points. And I don't necessarily think it's as much of a discredit to Nebraska's defense as is a credit to Wisconsin's offense for taking what the defense gave them, to use a football term, and make Nebraska pay for it. I don't think you were expecting Wisconsin to knock down, was it 14 threes?
They went off, and it's a case of Wisconsin won it, Nebraska didn't lose it. That's what happened Saturday. Now, you got to rebound literally and figuratively. Tomorrow night, 8 p.m. PBA, number 1, Purdue comes to town. First team in 22 years to make their way to Lincoln with the number 1 ranking. Nebraska has had their moments against Purdue, be it Tim Miles' squad or last year with the horrendous call against Nebraska. They had Purdue on the ropes. So
a couple years ago, there was that snow day in Nebraska where only like 5,000 people showed up, and Nebraska gave Purdue all they could handle. I think that was number 3 ranked Purdue at the time.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Nebraska in the past 5 seasons has played Purdue a lot more competitively than you would expect for how Nebraska has been at basketball over the past 5 seasons, which has been not good. They have always played this Purdue team tight, and you wonder whether or not that creeps into the back of the minds of the Purdue players, whether there's something with Fred Hoiberg's scheme that Purdue really struggles with, whether it's just the magic of Pinnacle Bank Arena, I don't know. But Nebraska has always seemed to play Purdue really, really close, even whenever Purdue is Final Four good, which they have been over the past couple years. I know they haven't necessarily lived up to the NCAA tournament, but the quality they have on the basketball court is Final Four good. It is again this year, but that hasn't seemed to deter Nebraska at all over the past couple seasons. If you can keep it close, I think that Pinnacle Bank crowd can will you over the finish line late in this one. If you're in a one-possession game, say with 10 minutes left, that PBA crowd is going to be rocking. It could be all you need to go pull the upset.
More on the cowboy boot intel. American-made Justin boots, $250 a pair. Custom-made higher-end boots or exotic, $600 plus a pair. So we've had some truth here this first hour between Brennan with the 3 payments, your buddy who did the alligator skin boots from Australia.
I think those would qualify as custom-made higher-end exotic boots.
I would say so. Cliff checks in from Florida. Cliff has not said whether or not he's wearing cowboy boots or not. Yeah. How did we get on the cowboy boots topic?
Yellowstone.
Yes, right. The comparison of Dana Holgorsen to the lawyer in Yellowstone.
Maybe I'll take down 10 beers at some point this week and hop on and look for some cowboy boots online.
Well, do so, man.
That'd be the best purchase I made after 10 beers.
Would you just go like normal looking, or would you want the exotic kinds that are all sorts of tricked out the higher up the leg you go?
Oh, look at me. If I'm 10 beers in, I'm going exotic.
Love it. We'll wind down hour 1. Hail Varsity continues.
And now,
back to Hail Varsity Radio.
One final time this hour, Hail Varsity powered by Cornhead Lager. Thoughts on some moves potentially by Nebraska football. Dana Holgorsen, a topic of conversation this hour. Some of the portal additions, Nebraska in a crowded Big Ten next year. Charlie McBride with us in about 10 minutes. We'll spend time with Jay Moore. More comments on the cowboy boots with what type of boots Elijah should get, because we're off and running with that. But first, want to remind you about the Supernovas Pro Volleyball time in Nebraska. The first ever Pro Volleyball Federation match coming up here January 21st against the Atlanta Vibe. CHI in Omaha. First serve at 7. Get your single match tickets or your season tickets now. Log on, supernovas.com. Witness world-class talent with Supernovas and, of course, the Atlanta Vibe. We're talking All-Americans, Olympians, NCAA national champions, and join the volleyball movement sweeping across the country, and see your Major League Volleyball team in Omaha with the Omaha Supernovas, supernovas.com, where you log on. Some tough volleyball news for Nebraska with Baton Horse hitting the portal, but Nebraska continues to accumulate talent, recruit talent, develop talent, and we'll see if Nebraska moves forward. I expect they will in that instance. But the suggestions here, Cliff is wearing alligator flip-flops down in Florida. He checks in. Nate suggests that you go with the square toe boots, Elijah. And Jason says get the Mexican Botas trail style. And Jason, are those the Breaking Bad like cartel boots?
See, I was thinking, have you ever seen the
because those were cool.
You ever seen the spoof documentary series Documentary Now?
No, I have not.
There's the most legendary episode is one where they're spoofing like Vice News, and it's the hunt for El Chingon, who's like a fake cartel lord down in Mexico, and these two reporters get whacked. And they're wearing the Mexican style boots, but they're spoof Mexican style boots. They just have like these toes that come up like 4 feet up in the air. It's hilarious. I think I could rock those though.
They're the long pointy ones.
The long pointy ones is exactly
right. That's what Jason
right.
is saying. So
yep, we're on the same page. The long pointy ones. If you haven't, go see the Hunt for El Chingon documentary now. One of the funniest episodes they've ever put out, and you'll see the boots.
Rule was rocking cowboy boots on one of the recruiting visits in the Twitter world. He was picturing. Those are cool. Chris says the John Allen Woodward Eldorado alligator sterling silver engraved. White diamonds, sapphires, $25,000. Or Jack Armstrong's for $6 million.
Yeah, I don't think that's in the cards.
No, the Iron Sheik boots are cool. Cliff, love that call. Rip the Iron Sheik. We presume Coach McBride's had a pair of cowboy boots, so we'll get there. But we'll talk Dana Holgorsen with Coach McBride and get his take on what that addition would be. What's he think of Michigan, Washington tonight? And a whole lot more with Coach. I wonder how much snowfall he's had in Michigan. Jay Moore also coming up hour 2. Some of your thoughts and comments in the stream. Also available via email, chris@HailVarsity.com, Hail Varsity YouTube, Hail Varsity Radio Twitter. Back with hour 2, powered by Cornhead Lager.
This is Christian Peter. I'm sorry, but the stories I have about Charlie are not appropriate for the public.
The right case of the Mondays. It's Mr. Blackshirt, Charlie McBride, on Hail Varsity Radio.
Back with you, it's hour 2. It's Hail Varsity Radio, powered by Cornhead Lager, Schmidt and Elijah Herbel. We welcome in Mr. Blackshirt, a Monday with Charlie McBride. Coach, have you guys been getting blasted by snow up there, up north?
Yeah, that and different colors of gray.
Really?
Yeah, that's what Michigan's noted for, is all the different colors of gray that you can find. We got it.
So you are in search of the sunshine. I love it.
I think that could be used as a describer for most of the Midwest this time of year.
Yeah, it's been no good. It's been no good.
It's been beautiful. It hasn't been really cold. But the temperature's been okay, but other than that, it's raining on and off, snowing on and off, that kind of crap.
Well, Charlie, are you a believer in the Farmer's Almanac? Because they said this year would be a milder winter, but there'd be a couple big snowstorms for those of us living in the Midwest. Do you believe what the Farmer's Almanac has to say?
Well, some years it's right and years it's wrong. So it's like you don't know. You're guessing, so you might as well just guess yourself.
So you see a Farmer's Almanac the same way you see like a psychic that sometimes they're right, sometimes they're wrong, and it doesn't really matter.
It doesn't matter. Listen, I'll tell you what. Right here, the weatherman is wrong all the time.
Good on him. He's still working. I like it. Charlie McBride's with us. Coach, we got into the topic of cowboy boots because there's been a lot of smoke around Dana Holgorsen, and one of our incredible viewers / listeners compared him to a character on Yellowstone, and I brought up the topic of cowboy boots, and we're trying to talk Elijah into buying some cowboy boots. Have you ever had cowboy boots, and if so, did you wear them around?
Yeah, absolutely. I've had probably 5 or 6 pair of them in the time. I mean, I have a couple here now.
Okay.
I don't wear them all the time, but I wear them. I usually get I don't get the high soles or heels. I just get the streetwalkers.
Okay.
Heels.
Schmidt needs some high heels in his boots.
My wife's got enough high heels. We're good.
Spraining your ankle is what it does.
That's pretty good. Well, that's the popular name that was in town as a friend to visit Matt Rule. And you remember Dana from his time with Coach Leach, but also just seeing what some of his offenses did, be it at Oklahoma State or at Houston or at West Virginia. And what's your impression here? What's your reaction if this thing continues down the path of him joining the staff? Bombs away. He's an air raid guy, but he's ran the football quite a bit too.
Yeah, the ball will be in the air. He likes to throw it. That's one thing he's done, and I know that he's a big. The times that I remember about him, he's really a big deep ball guy too. You know, he likes to get the ball down the field, and that usually makes things exciting if you can get a guy that can stick it in there, and you never know. I mean, he's probably. Like most coaches right now, they're all, mixing eggs. Mm-hmm. They don't know for sure what they're going to do. And, I was listening to the Big Ten channel today, and they don't know what Harbaugh is going to do, and all that talk's still going on. Mm-hmm. So, and they don't know if, if a guy does this for 3 years and he gets three games suspension, you might as well keep doing it. That's nothing. I mean, it's and then they find the games that don't count or whatever it is. But I don't know. But that West Virginia, that's what I remember the most about him doing there. I didn't see him as much against Oklahoma when he was at Oklahoma State as I did. Seeing him on TV when he was at West Virginia.
It's Charlie McBride with us here on Hail Varsity Radio. And Charlie, if Dana is the guy, we know he likes to throw it around, but we also know wherever he goes, he does have a high-level offense that tends to cater towards the players that he has. So I think that could be a positive. My question to you, though, is with his head coaching experience, coming back and being a coordinator after over a decade of being a head coach, is that a positive or a negative for your coordinator to have?
Well, I think it's a positive in some ways. It depends on the person, but if he will commit to doing the job, it actually is a very good job because you're right in the middle of it on offense, and I mean it's you're kind of almost the offensive coordinator. I mean the head coach on when you're a coordinator anyway. I know Coach Osborne, he didn't mess with the defense and that much, and but he ran the offense. So I didn't feel like a head coach, but I said you're kind of responsible for a lot of kids, and you have to be prepared, and I think he's one of these guys that, always was prepared. He gives you the impression maybe he's not, but he is. Like a lot of times, just through his, the way he handles himself, and he may have long hair one day and short the next, and cowboy boots on the sideline. Who knows? But and they'll know he's there. I'll tell you that, because if it's not, things aren't going good, probably get a few words out of him up in the balcony of the stadium.
Charlie McBride's with us. Coach, Nebraska able to land a couple of names in the portal. The running back from Oregon, Dowdell, really high-level player from Mississippi, and then Naor, the wideout that played for Coach Bull and did well at Wyoming. He's transferred in from Texas, and Nebraska seems to be picking their spots with some of these additions via the portal. They keep going young and high school recruiting, but they'll sprinkle in some of these portal guys, kind of like you guys did with the JUCO ranks.
Yeah. Well, I think the ones that those guys, they still have a couple of years left. So
yeah,
I think, and that's the good thing is you don't want them. The thing that worries me a little bit about a lot of this stuff going on now is you never hear about education anymore. It's all about just football, just money and football and stuff like that, and it, concerns me a little bit. Go back even when I was a kid. Recruiting was a whole lot different, and to get a scholarship was monumental, and because a lot of times even now when parents work hard to save money for one of their sons and they get something, they don't have to pay for them, and except for the travel and stuff. So a scholarship still means a lot, but it doesn't seem like they even mention a scholarship anymore. It's how much money I'm going to get.
Coach, a thought on Nash Hudmacher, the polar bear, wrestling, and he shed about 40 pounds, was able to win his match this weekend, but you were a big proponent of multi-sport guys, weren't you?
Yeah, I love it. But especially wrestling, with linemen, because it develops so much talent. I got a chance to see him a couple of times, pin that guy on different views.
Mm-hmm.
Different channels had a different view of it, and it was kind of interesting. It just showed how agile he really is, and things like that. And probably 40 pounds dropping isn't a bad deal for him. He's probably twice as quick, but and even with those 40 pounds on, I think the best thing he can do is hand the guy out of the center off to hand him off to the quarterback.
Do you think he puts the weight back on, or could you see him playing at 300?
Oh, sure. Yeah, I could see him playing at 300 pounds. I think you'd be surprised, because I think, you don't lose much strength. In fact, you get more flexibility, and you got more change of direction, probably a little better, which is good, especially when you're rushing the passer or you're making a reaction on a running play. And so, knowing that he'll gain some weight during the season. Mm-hmm. If he came in at 300, I'd guess him by the end of the year he'd be 320 or 315 in that area. For wrestling, when you see a guy can lose weight like that up and down, those wrestling coaches love that stuff.
So
guys get, yes.
I want to get your take just on that weight loss that you kind of talk about, because it sounds so astounding. 40 pounds in about 5 weeks. And Nash was asked about it. He said, I cut out sugary drinks and I cut down some of my meals. For example, every morning during football season, he would eat 8 eggs.
That sounds awesome.
He cut it down to 4. And I went, wow, I would probably have a stomachache if I ate 4 eggs to start my day every single day. But can you just talk about that really fast? Just the amount of calories these guys are putting down?
I don't like it with the younger kids as much, but they have to lose. Like if a kid has to get down, say he's 220, and he has to get down to 85 or something like that, I'm not real fired up about that stuff, that way down. But as you get older, it's probably not a bad idea. It probably isn't as harmful as it is when you're younger. And, I used to watch guys that were friends of mine go through and, they were eating a piece of lettuce and they go into the bathroom about 50 times a day to lose 2 pounds, for weighing in and stuff. But to get to where they had to get, a lot of them, you're going to see they have to go down rather than up. It's harder to go up than it is coming down, So, but I think that if he did that, I think I could see he was trim, and he's quick now. And so I think he's probably a little quicker than he was at 320 or 325, whatever he weighed. I don't remember exactly.
Schmidt, people are saying that Nash went to you for weight loss advice. Is that true?
I could give it to him, but yeah, not. He's still undefeated. I would run and hide. Charlie McBride's with us. Coach, all right, Frank Solich got into the College Football Hall of Fame today. What do you think?
Oh, that's great. Oh, that's pretty good. Frank made a pretty good move by, when he left, is not saying, well, I'm going to go to the top divisions and this and that, or I'm not going to coach. A lot of guys will even say that, and Frank did a great job there. The hardest thing it was probably for the kids to play on TV in the middle of the week when all the students were going to school and things like that. That's kind of hard on your team a little bit sometime when you're not playing on a Saturday. And but he deserved it. He's won everywhere he's been, and he's just a good person. And I think that he deserves it. He's won, like I said, I think he was the oldest coach at his last year there that was active, and I think he's in his 70s, and that's pretty good. But Frank was always in pretty good shape.
Yeah, Frank's still put together. Coach, about 90 seconds before we say goodbye till next week. Michigan or Washington tonight. What happens?
I got to stick with the Big Ten, right now. Of course, they're all Big Ten schools. But I think, I'd like to see Michigan win. And I don't know it's going to be interesting to see what Harbaugh does. But, for their sake, from what I just hear about the players, they're really hanging together pretty good.
Well, and that's it. And you've got a Nebraska connection with Ernest Hausman playing linebacker for Michigan. And right now, Elijah and I will make our predictions a little bit later, but it's a great night for the future of the Big Ten and quite frankly, one of the old guards of the Big Ten. And a lot of polarization, though, with Harbaugh in this thing.
It's a great night for those that like the stylistic match. It's like old football versus new football. And I'm not saying Washington's not physical. I'm not saying Michigan's not updated, but it's that classic throwback Michigan against that high-flying modern Washington. Stylistically really interesting.
Well, Washington's not Little Sisters of the Poor, and I think they'll make a pretty good showing. They're a tough bunch of kids. In general, and I don't cherish playing them. When we played them, we got a nuts on our head, a few times. And so, Michigan they'll be ready to play. Washington, I think, will be ready to play. The quarterback's very, very, very accurate.
He's awesome. Coach, you stay warm and bundled up, and we'll check in next Monday, all right?
I'll do it. I'll be here smiling and grinning.
I love it. Coach, you take care. Thanks again.
Okay. Thanks, guys. I'll talk to you later. Bye out.
There he is, Mr. Blackshirt, Charlie McBride. The Blackshirt Hour rolls forward. Jay Moore on the way with Hail Varsity.
All-State, 2-year starter, and rush in for the Big Red and NFL vet.
Is Dudeness or Duder or, El Duderino if you're not into the whole brevity thing.
It's Blackshirt Jay Moore with Hail Varsity Radio.
Back into it. It's Hail Varsity Radio, powered by Cornhead Lager, Chris Schmidt, Elijah Herbel. As we say hi to Jay Moore, Blackshirt Husker NFLer, co-host Big Red Wrap-Up. Follow Jay on Twitter at JMoore44. Jay Bird, happy 2024. It's been a while since we talked, and you are, well, you're Big Daddy-O at home on a snow day, man. How you doing?
Good. Let's just extend Christmas break, winter break further. Why not? Right.
for all of us, right?
Right.
Let's just
it's already been 14 days. Let's make it a 15th day. But who's counting?
So, is Mav duct taped in his room, or is he racing around?
No, he's finally at that age where watching stuff on YouTube or playing Nintendo Switch or Xbox, whatever it is, keeps him plenty content. So that's what he's currently doing right now. So he just goes into zombie mode with that stuff. So it has worked out well at those things. It has its upside, obviously a lot of downside too. But right now he's full into Mario Kart on some Switch right now.
Well, it's better than Fortnite. I was gonna say so many parents nowadays are buying their kids like the Fortnite coins, and I was gonna say like, man, you could have put those to good use today. Going home.
Yeah, he's a little too young for that. I think we had it, and then we have one of the Xboxes that you only have so much data, and we had the Fortnite, but he had no idea to play it. I have no idea to play it. I don't even care to learn how to play it. So we deleted it, so we get the new Madden.
Well,
I thought that was more appropriate.
That's better. That's better.
Do you play him in Madden or no?
Yeah, every now and then we'll battle. Yeah, I always have to get a pretty poor team. He always wants like the 49ers or Ravens or we're big Bengals fans in this household, so we get the Bengals. So usually I'll kind of go towards.
Don't say the Broncos.
I don't know, like a sneaky pick right now is with C.J. Stroud is the Texans.
Okay.
They're kind of sneaky good, but he thinks they suck. I'm like, dude, they're kind of nice with C.J. Stroud, so I'll kind of resort to them as a pseudo crappy pick.
Do you give him the bad controller?
No, I don't. It's you don't even run into that much anymore as long as it's linked up Bluetooth. But it's fun. It's amazing. Our competitive spirits both jump out when we're talking crap to each other. There's gonna be some broken controllers here in the near future.
That's hilarious.
Do you feel that your NFL experience helps you in Madden? There's a guy there, Kurt, former backup quarterback in a multitude of different places. He now is like a competitive Madden player because he knows how to read defenses and what. Do you feel like your NFL experience helps you?
Yeah, a little bit. If they're going to continue to run the same play over and over, which as 7-year-olds could do, it's like, well, if you're just going to run slants to Tyreek Hill the whole time, I'm just going to sit in this little underneath zone here and just pick you off every time. So that's pretty easy to figure out. Or they run the same run play over and over again. It's like I'll just kind of move my D lineman, I'll shift them over one gap and good luck. That stuff's pretty basic. You don't have to play football for a long time to figure out how to stop some of that stuff.
Why is Mav crying again? Well, I kicked his ass in Madden.
Jay keeps bringing Engage 8.
Jay, let's talk a little bit about Nebraska football. They get two nice portal commits over the weekend. Isaiah Nayor, really good numbers for Coach Bull at Wyoming. Had some injury issues at Texas, but big-bodied wideout that has produced in all kinds of weather. And then a really talented player from the state of Mississippi, and Dante Dowdell, big back, very athletic. And those are two wins for the Big Red this weekend.
Yeah, good gets. Two position groups where you were vastly short on this last year with injuries. You needed some guys. Obviously, there's some youth at both those positions where they've validated themselves in year one, making some big plays. But you still need depth, and getting some guys there, that's going to be a huge help. I imagine. I mean, just with when school starts, I don't know if there's anyone else coming in, but wouldn't hurt to maybe get another wide receiver potentially before the spring semester starts. So not surprised that those two position groups were filled. Getting Dowdell at the Oregon, his pedigree just from recruiting out of high school and then playing in a high-powered offense like Oregon's always is. It's nice to have because you just get some experience and just know how to move efficiently within offenses, and those are two nice gets to kind of kick off the year for us.
And Jay, it's interesting. Whenever you think of Dowdell specifically, you don't really think of that big power back being an Oregon running back, and I know they're changing a little bit under Lanning, but he really strikes me as that Big Ten power running back. Like, the Big Ten feels like it should have been the conference for him all along. Whenever you watch his film, whenever you hear what he has to say about his own style running the football. And I mean, your thoughts, who's like the ultimate big-bodied running back that you remember watching at Nebraska or maybe playing with?
Well, guys I played with, I mean, I immediately think of like a Brandon Jackson. Mm-hmm. He's a bigger body. Kenny Wilson, a JUCO guy that came in and played, and he got injured. He was a bigger guy. Cody Glenn came in as a running back. Guys who I played against, I mean, first guy that comes to mind, Adrian Peterson. I mean, if not, be one of the best running backs of all time in college football and NFL history. The dude is an absolute freak. So he was tough. So I played with a lot of bigger guys. The smaller slashers that really Nebraska never really had those. I mean, Corey Ross was smaller, but he was still sturdy. Marlon Lucky was still on the bigger side. But you definitely need in the Big Ten Conference. You need the guy that can be physical, can handle 20 carries, but can still have some wiggle to him and be able to slash and kind of put his foot in the ground and get upfield. So I think Dowdell, he definitely kind of checks all those boxes.
And there's obviously pros and cons to each, Jay, but from your experience, what is the difficulty of playing against a big-bodied running back?
First contact, it's just tough to get him down. I just think of the times going against Adrian Peterson, and you think you had him, and you bounce right off of them. They just can wear you down, and it's really fourth quarter. They start to kind of wear on you. They lean on you a little bit. It's just initial contact. They can carry it, might be 2 yards, but then it turns into a 4, 5, 6 yard gain, and didn't look like they have much. This is what they can bring. Usually a little bit better. Sometimes the pass pro, picking up blitzes, and obviously not as good in the passing game, your third and long situations, but they're tough, man. They're physical, they wear you down, and then you get in that 4-minute drill when you get the game up, and you just need a first down, and the thing's over. I tell you what, those big body backs come in real handy when you're just running powers and ISOs, try to seal that thing up.
Jay Moore's with us, Hail Varsity Radio, Cornhead Lager, our sponsor. Snow day, but, we shoveled our way in and talking some Big Red football. Jay, the name this weekend, Dana Holgorsen. Just a friend, says Matt Rule. There's been some thought about Dana here for about a week or so, and then some reports came out over the weekend. You went against Holgorsen under Coach Leach, and Dana's kind of pigeonholed with that air raid rep, but just doing some research we talked about earlier, his coaching career from coordinator to quarterback coach to running 2 different programs, man, he's been pretty adaptable. If there's a spot for him with Coach Rule, what's that say to you?
Well, it just says that they're just trying to get better. And I don't think jump to conclusion is some people are like, oh my gosh, we're just going to throw the football 60 times a game. No, you're just trying to get a guy on staff, another football mind, a very good football mind that can just kind of bring something else to the table. I know Satterfield spent, at South Carolina, they like to throw it a lot, but just something else, just another thought, another tendencies to look at, to or just certain things to help you kind of get over the hump. And whether it's from an analyst role, if it's a multiple year thing, I don't know. I mean, who knows what Holgorsen wants to do, if he wants find another head coaching job, or he's kind of get to that time of his career where, heck, pay me, low 6 figures, I'll come be an analyst for you, type of situation. But it's just getting a different voice in there sometimes I think helps. But I think still going forward, Nebraska wants to run the football first and foremost. And I think I'm not too concerned about that, but just expanding your passing game and just understanding how you can attack defenses and attack really good defenses in the Big Ten. I mean, between, Michigan, Ohio State, Penn State, and obviously, with the Pac-12 schools coming in, I can't say USC's defense. I mean, they weren't very good. UCLA's hasn't been very good, but Washington's and Oregon's defenses are really, really good. How to attack those and just find yourself getting ahead and just kind of setting yourself up for the future. So I like it. Anytime you can improve and get a good guy, a guy on staff that has proven history, that has proven himself at multiple places and proven himself with different, multiples of offense, I think that's only a plus for this team.
And Jay, it's interesting whenever you compare the potential of Holgorsen coming on staff to some other offensive hires Nebraska's made in recent years. You go back to Lubick, and I know it's a different staff completely, but he was working at a credit union, I want to say. You have Satterfield, who was really bemoaned by a lot of South Carolina fans before he came here. Whipple had a great offense at Pitt, but it doesn't sound like that Narduzzi wanted to keep him around for much longer. It doesn't feel like Nebraska's taking a cast off this time around, if you will, and that might be a little bit harsh on some other previous guys, but a guy in Holgorsen is the guy that is not only well-respected in the college football community, but he has the numbers to back it up.
No, he definitely does. And I think if you look at, if you want to compare offensive defensive staffs, obviously the defensive staff in Nebraska, there's a lot of experience more on the defensive side. Not saying that's immediately why they had success this year, but it has to be a little something to that. I think obviously the talent was deeper and more experienced and better on the defensive side. But you look at the offensive side, obviously Ray Ellis stays. The young wide receivers coach is brought in for one of his first gigs. Satterfield, not a ton of experience at the OC. Had been with Rule at a couple different places. The running back coach, Barthel has been other places, but it's just getting some more experience. And it's not putting anyone, on check in that staff. It's just like, hey man, we're trying to get better. And if this guy can come in and give us some fresh ideas, give us something a couple extra wrinkles to throw in there, maybe some different third down schemes and passing game stuff, why not? It's not going to hurt us. It only can help us. So I think they're just trying to get some more experience and just they got to get better. I mean, on the side of football, I know there's injuries, but the offensive side of the ball was obviously really bad this last year. So they got to improve it, and they're gonna explore all options at this point.
You can't live in a world where you're scoring 17 a game, period. You can't do that to the defense. You can't do that to your own football team for another season, and who knows where it goes. But if Nebraska gets the ability to land a guy like Holgorsen with what they have on offense and his vast ability as an inside receivers coach, first of all, that's how he kind of cut his teeth playing for Leach. And then his track record with quarterbacks and just being as adaptable as he's been offensively, that's incredible. And listen, you can kind of pair up the work. I would think he won't come here unless he's a co-coordinator passing game title. So you have him and Sat, and then you have Donnie with the run game, and you got three sets of eyes working on an offense with, I think, some really nice young talent. And then we've talked already about the portal. Jay, two of your close contemporaries, Danny Woodhead, a guy you're really tight with on the golf course and played with and against in high school and, of course, in the NFL. And then your coach, the man who brought you to Nebraska, Frank Solich, both being nominated today for the College Football Hall of Fame.
Yeah, outstanding news. I was not aware until we were just kind of hopping on here and touching base before we started recording. But it's two fantastic people, very, very deserving. I've got to know Danny obviously through golf, and become good friends with his family, and his brother lives here in Lincoln, so we play a lot of golf, and very, very deserving. What he did at Shattern State, I know it's going off obviously Shattern State, and you have to have a pretty good professional career for them to consider. But getting the equivalent of the Heisman, not once but maybe twice. Did he get it twice? Yeah. So I don't know the name of that award, but that's outstanding. I mean, Shattern's always been a good football program at the D2 level, and obviously his career that he had playing in the NFL for 10 years. It's no surprise that he got it. Then Coach Solich, I mean, what he's able to do here as an assistant and then as a head coach, and then obviously we've touched base on it more times. And I know the horse is dead, but being wrongfully fired after a 9-3 season, but then obviously taking it over and moving over to Ohio and having success there, and damn near winning the MAC conference every year. It seemed like every other year, and being very, very competitive. He's very, very deserving, and very happy for him. Just feels like everything's kind of fallen into place here for the last year or so for Coach Solich, just coming back to the spring game, being recognized and getting this award. So obviously very happy for both of them. And I'm just not surprised at all because both of them are very deserving.
Quickly here, Jay, with Danny, is he a what-if in your mind in terms of being a Nebraska kid who goes off to Shadron State? Nebraska at the time had a couple of guys we've already talked about earlier in this interview with Brandon Jackson and Marlon Lucky on roster at the time. Is that a what-if in your mind? What if Danny Woodhead would have gotten that Nebraska offer? What if he would have came to Nebraska? Or do you think that's by the wayside now?
It's hard because what if he comes here and never plays? He never gets a look. And maybe his work ethic and everything that we know about, he gets opportunities. But what if he sits in the third or fourth string and doesn't, or and just plays scout team and doesn't get a look? Does Danny Woodhead become what Danny Woodhead we know as, because he goes to Shadron State, plays him right away, and is an All-American there? So it's just he's kind of one of those. It's 6 one way, half a dozen the other. People like to think, oh my gosh, we'd love to have Danny Woodhead. Yeah, I would have loved to have Danny Woodhead here. He would have if he would got a chance to play, the guy would have produced. But that's just the thing. And does he get a shot? You'd like to think in scrimmages and going into the scout team, people are like, God dang, who's this kid from North Platte? He's toasting us in scrimmages and in practice. And maybe that was the way he could have, but it's a much tougher mountain to climb here than at Shadron State. I just don't know if he'd got the fair shot and the fair look as a 5-star or high 4-star running backs in JUCO transfers would have got coming in here, just because of the size and just those just the stereotypical stuff that you get. He's a small white running back. Those are too stereotypical. That just doesn't work well in major college athletics. And so I'd love to have him as teammate and seen him flourish here, but I don't know if he honestly would have got a fair shake.
Well, he got looked at by the pros, man, and killed it for a long, long career. Jay, we'll get your thoughts on the college football championship game tonight. Washington, Michigan was giggling about Harbaugh and his interview, his sit-down with McAfee, and he was there with Kalen DeBoer, and they both were in their Sunday best, but Harbaugh's staring at DeBoer like DeBoer's a zoo animal during one of the questions that McAfee posed to him. And Harbaugh's going all Stevie Wonder, man. He's just buckle him in the interview seat. But what happens tonight? Michigan, I think, favored by 4.5 or 5.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a really good game. I do. I think it's going to be interesting to see if Michigan can apply the same pressure that they did against Alabama and Milroe. I think Milroe is not as good as in the pocket as Penix is. Obviously not no near the thrower. But can they create that kind of pressure and get him off his spot and get him off timing? If they can, I like Michigan. But if they have issues, and I know DeBoer is a very smart football mind, he's going to have some things dialed up for that defense. And then I just look at the physicality of Michigan. If they can commit to the run and stick with it, and I think their physicality wears them down. I like Michigan. I thought Michigan was by far the best team all year. I don't think Michigan is by far the flashiest team. I think has and definitely doesn't have the most firepower. I think that's Washington. But what I think Michigan has is just the ability to wear people out. And I think this is tends to be a low scoring game. Less than 40 points. I think this is all Michigan in this one. Not saying all like it's a blowout, but I just think that style of game just suits Michigan. Now, if they start off quick and Oregon gets off to a hot start, 17-3, 14-0. I tell you what, that's tough for Michigan to come back from. But if they can keep this thing, they're very methodical. I like Michigan in that type of game.
Jay, on a more important note, what's on the menu tonight at the Moore household?
Well, I think I'm getting together with a few buddies, and I think there's going to be some...
That's code for you're not invited.
That's code for we're not invited. That's code for beers for dinner.
I had to touch base because with the snow and kids being home from school, sometimes that just throws a wrench in it. But I'm going to swing over there, and I know he likes his very fine IPAs, and I'm sure there'll be some wings and... some nice, queso dips and all those things. So I have no idea, to be honest. I just know that the the collection of beverages is going to be off the charts because my man is he knows what he's doing through all gamuts of it, through beers, bourbons, tequilas, whatever. So we got to keep it classy, though. You got to got the snow issues, and you got an early morning for work tomorrow too.
That means cut yourself off at halftime. Is what that means.
Yeah, you know what? You like to think that. That's when you say that I'm leaving at halftime, done at halftime. It never happens. Just be, just take it easy, right? Just put it on cruise control.
Jay Moore with us, co-host Big Red Wrap-Up, Blackshirt Husker NFLer at JMoore44. Find him on Twitter. Jay will hit some NFL weekend next week after the first round of the wild card. Get your thoughts on the NFL postseason. Thanks for a few minutes today. Good to spend time with Blackshirt Husker NFLer Jay Moore. And plenty of playoff football still ahead. Things are set there. We'll do our steak and a beer bet before we take off. Are you going anywhere? Are you going to do wings? What's on your menu?
I think burgers.
You do burgers?
I have trusted
you the
my
old
roommates.
George Foreman, or are you doing the air fryer?
Smash burgers. We're getting the pan. We're smashing them down. We were discussing, and a lot of this comes down to my roommates. How much time do they actually spend playing Mortal Kombat today? Because they said
you gave them an assignment.
They said they'd be
clean
working
the
on
house, make me dinner.
The plan was Oklahoma onion burgers.
Nice.
Which we'll see. We'll see what it looks like when I get home. Chances are they're probably still on the couch playing Mortal Kombat.
Title game coming up. Thoughts next.
And now,
back to Hail Varsity Radio.
One final time, Hail Varsity Radio, powered by Cornhead Lager, Spotify, iTunes, Google Play, where you get the podcast. Can also watch the show archived for you daily, the Hail Varsity YouTube channel. Give us a follow. Find us on Twitter as well, at HVarsity Radio. Can rewatch the show there, at Schmidt_radio. My Twitter, at Herbal Essence for Elijah. He is doing smash burgers. I'm thinking of some flank steak tonight. Air fryer.
Yeah.
I'm too big a wuss to dig out my grill. So there we have it. Let's get into tonight, as it's Michigan, it's Washington. Total head versus heart. I think your heart says Washington. I think your head says Michigan.
My head and my heart both say Michigan. Personally.
Really? You want old school, old guard, Big Ten. Tiger Shark checks in on the stream. As we'll get to more of your comments here tomorrow. But Harbaugh's building a treehouse for recruiting slumber parties again. That's hilarious.
Well, do you want to know why my heart tells me Michigan? I'm sick and tired of hearing the stat, Michigan hasn't won a title since 97. Because Michigan didn't win a title in 97.
So you're going back to 40. You're going back to 48. Okay.
So, yeah, let's hope they say. Let's just make that Michigan hasn't won a title since 2024.
They need to preface it by saying shared a title.
But they never do. They never do. So,
right.
So that's why my heart tells me Michigan. Let's just stop hearing that stat. That's gross. Also, it'd make you feel a little bit better about the shellacking that you saw back in, what was that, early October? Late September, excuse me. With Nebraska and Michigan. You feel a little better about that shellacking if Michigan goes on to be the national title winner. So those are the two reasons why my heart tells me Michigan. Like, yeah, Washington's a cool story, but
I just like Kalen DeBoer. Again, the chance to cover him when he was rolling people at Sioux Falls. Our friend Greg Henson, our Michigan insider, had something come up. He says that Michigan wins 42-28. And I'm going to go with my heart versus my head here. I'm going to pick Washington. I'll take the points. And I think Michigan will get to Penix. And I think Penix can stand in and make some plays. Here's the reality. Why this won't work, why it goes the other way, is as badly as Texas gashed Washington, and Washington's rush defense is in the 100 and somethings and teens, 113 maybe. That's what Michigan's going to do. That's what Michigan wants to do anyway. So it comes down to the wear down, body blow mindset that is what Michigan does well. Can Washington's defense make a few plays? turnovers. Is Michigan going to play that badly on special teams a second game in a row? I think Michigan probably wins, but for argument purposes, for steak and beer bet, I'll take Washington in the points.
What's your score prediction?
It's going to be 1-30, so give me Washington 31-28.
Okay, I think it's going to be lower scoring.
Another 7-point or under win for Washington to make it an even 11.
I don't think this game has as many points as people think it will. I think Washington's going to hit some big plays. I think Michigan, that ground attack, I think they remain in control of the football game. I think they get a 28-21 victory. So a win and cover for the Wolverines tonight. And I guess we'll see who wins the steak and beer tomorrow morning. Huh?
That'll work. We'll check in tomorrow. Back at 4. Big ball game tomorrow night at PBA. Talk to you then with Hail Varsity, powered by Cornhead Lager.